Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to get started shortly. Give everybody just a couple more minutes to get on.
Hello?
Hi, Bill. We can hear you.
Oh, good. Hi.
Yep, we're going to give everyone a couple minutes and then we'll get started.
Great. I'll mute myself till I'm needed.
All right, and while we're waiting, I know we have quite a few already on the line. Great to see everybody. I want to let you know today we are going to be talking about pets. So while we're talking and throughout the webinar, if you want to be thinking about questions or comments, best practices that you would like to discuss, we're going to have a time during the call for discussion, and we'd love it to be a lively talk. So be sure to type in and let me know that you want to talk, and I'll make sure to unmute you when that time comes. And hi, Dave from Costa Rica. Lucky duck. Got the nice weather. Glad you can make it. Hi, Laura. I see you. We've got a good group today. Looking forward to getting started. We're going to give it just about maybe 2 more minutes.
Hi, Sri. Can you hear me okay? It's Sarah. Sheree?
Yes, Sarah, I hear you. Glad that we were able to get the audio worked out. I have us at the top of the hour, so why don't we go ahead and get started?
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to our February ambassador call. We're so excited that you could join us. And we wanted to start off with a bit of a special announcement. We wanted you to be the first of what we're calling the SHE campaign. So as you know, the first three letters of ShelterBox are SHE. And so we've built a campaign so that we can raise awareness of the fact that women are disproportionately affected by disaster, but also we want to highlight the fact that they're key to recovery in so many different areas. And so I just wanted to kick off the call today by showing you some of the images and facts that you'll be seeing as a part of this campaign, so that you guys really get the sneak peek and first look at it. Just to give you sort of the overview, International Women's Day falls on March 8th, and so that's when we'll be kicking off this campaign, but we plan on running it through Mother's Day, which is in May, so that you'll see different messages on social media, and we'll have presentations available for you to use that tie in with this campaign. But I just wanted to just take a moment and show you some of kind of the statistics and tell you a bit more of this story. So we know, for example, that women and children are particularly affected by disasters. So this is true in the case of both natural disasters and also of conflicts. There are more women and children who are displaced than men. And so we feel this obligation to be able to serve them, especially in their time of desperate need. And as we have seen a lot of different examples over the years, we know that this is the case not only when disasters strike, but also in conflict areas. Oftentimes, the husbands are slain, and so the women are forced to flee with their children and to try to escape to save their own lives. Here you can see an example of that from Iraq, where we've been working to help refugees, as well as in Syria and the Lake Chad Basin. And then we also know that women are more likely to die during a natural disaster than men. And so there are a lot of different reasons for this. There was one significant study, for example, done after the Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004 that showed that 4 times as many women died than men during that particular incident. And a lot of the reasoning had to do with the fact that culturally women weren't taught to swim or to climb trees and to do a lot of the types of outdoor activities that boys did. And so because of that, more of them perished in this particular disaster. We've seen other examples, like from India, when there was a significant earthquake there, and again, more women died, but it was because they were in the homes doing domestic activities and the structures crumbled, whereas at the time of the quake, the men were out in the fields doing a different type of work, and so many more of them survived in that particular disaster. And so there are a lot of different reasons that contribute to this, but those are a couple of the examples. And then also, we know that when women and children are forced to flee, there's less of a likelihood that students will be able to go to school. So girls in particular are often kept out of school because of safety concerns. We see this in natural disasters too, not just in conflicts. In droughts, for example, girls are more likely to miss school as they're needed by their family to actually travel further to collect water and to help care for their family members. And so again, there are a lot of kind of underlying causes to this, but there's a much higher chance that girls will be kept out of school during both crises and natural disasters. And then also we know that when we involve women in disaster relief efforts and acknowledge their role in the community and use them as partners as we start to rebuild, we get much better results, and there's greater resilience after disaster. And so it's really important to ensure that women are able to access relief supplies, sanitation facilities, and also livelihood support. And so these are some of the things that we're committed to. We talk so much about focusing on serving the most vulnerable, and oftentimes the most vulnerable are women and children who have maybe lost their primary source of income with the loss of their husbands. Other times we see higher rates of sexual violence or economic inequalities following a disaster, and those sort of existing pieces within a society become even more pronounced after a disaster. And so we're committed to working alongside women to help rebuild these communities. And then looking at ways that ShelterBox is making an impact for women around the world. The tents that we provide, for example, help women feel more safe and secure. Sheree, we've got some photos here. So the tents provide privacy and help women to maintain their dignity. And they also provide workspaces so that if women need to restart their businesses, they can. Our shelter kits also help women keep their independence and rebuild their homes for their families. These homes help them feel safer and enable them to rebuild their lives. Our solar lights help women to feel safer in the darkness of night. So we include multiple lights in each shelter box so that the women can take them with them to the latrines at night, so that children can use them if they're walking on dark pathways, in addition to their uses inside of the tent for things like reading and cooking. And so again, just sort of a low cost item can provide a huge difference and impact for women who are most in need. We also have our school kits, which allow students to study and to regain normalcy when their lives have been turned upside down. So our school packs contain crayons and math sets and other supplies. And so for children who have lost most, if not all, of their possessions, these small gifts are treasured and again can help those students who are otherwise out of school start to be able to learn again. Another key piece of what we do is providing training in the field. So we help families understand how they can use the equipment they have received. So oftentimes we're training community leaders who then go on to train other members of the community in how to build back stronger. And so, like I said, that was just a quick overview of some of the issues that are facing women around the world, and also what ShelterBox is doing to be able to help them, especially after disaster and after conflict. And so looking at sort of what's coming up next, as I mentioned there, you'll see the dates to the campaign. So March 8th through May 12th, we are putting together a PowerPoint that talks specifically about how we help and support women around the world. And so we'll offer some additional training around that if it's something you'd like to share with Rotary clubs, for example, to just give a slightly different talk than what you've been doing in the past. So we'll get you more information and training as soon as that's available. And then we also think this is a great opportunity if you're wanting to host a Facebook fundraiser or perhaps an event that would target women in your life to just raise awareness around this critical issue. And so we just wanted to let you know that those are some of the things that will be coming on the horizon, and I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has. So as a reminder, you can either type those in the chat box or you can raise your hand, but that is the She campaign for ShelterBox. And so we're really excited to be able to continue to share the different stories and facts with you as we get deeper into March. So thank you, Cherie. I can turn it over to you for the rest of the agenda.
All right, thank you, Sarah. And we've already received compliments from Peggy, who says it's a brilliant idea. So moving on to today's agenda, we've already had Sarah cover the She campaign. We're very excited to roll that out. We're going to go through our usual ambassador shout outs, announce the ambassador of the month, and I'm going to hand it over to Bill Tobin, who's going to help us talk about how to make an impact at pets. He's got a comprehensive guide for us today. But while we're talking, I really like for you to input your questions into the chat, enter your best practices, your ideas, or maybe things that you would like to know from experienced peers so that we can have a discussion after we follow, or after Bill finishes making an impact at pets. After the group discussion, I have a few staff reminders for our group, and then we're just going to go over the highlights of our current deployments. So let's get started with our shout outs, because we have reasons to shout out. First, I want to shout out our top 10 fundraisers for January. You can see here we've had Bill Woodard, Anthony Hansen, Wayne Childs, Gerald Ewerts, Brian Glenn, Lynn Nimroff, Tom Dewson, Laura Helmer, Ned Morris, and Jim Carrier. They are 10 of our fundraisers. We also had another 12 who made January grand for a total of $45,000 toward our mission. And that was only reported 261 hours, but I know that many more hours were spent sharing ShelterBox. So thank each and every one of you for the time that you spend. And on those hours, some of the shout outs that I want to give today is from this time that you have spent sharing ShelterBox. And first, well, this was actually posted from St. Charles Romero Catholic School in Florida, where they were happy to have Andre come and share ShelterBox with the students. And they were able to raise $1,500 just in penny wars. And I know Andre is going to take this opportunity and maybe work with other schools in the area to do something very similar. So thank you, Andre. I know you're on the line. I know we've talked a lot this week. So Thank you for going and for bringing up our next generation of ambassadors. I also want to give a shout out to Holly. She made her way down from the snowy Midwest down into Florida to visit our Florida office this last week, and it was great. Everyone said that you're just a ball of energy, so we were glad to have you, and anybody is welcome to visit the office anytime if you're in the area. We have some pictures here from Tom and Marie. They shared ShelterBox with the Rotary Club of Cranberry Township, and a club member just loved it so much they wrote a nice report on the presentation. They posted on the club's website and the district website, and that's such great exposure, so job well done. I have to thank Greg Krauska for his offer to build, which offer still stands, to build and ship shelter kit models for ambassadors who secure 5 new hero clubs through April 1st. So we're still good on that. We still have some time on that. Take Greg up on his offer. I see some fine craftsmanship there, and I know there are many of you that would love to be able to add that to your display. Here we have a picture Eric Reese actually uploaded. It's his favorite time of year. He's making a presentation to the District 5100 Youth Exchange, and that's just the heart for him. I know he loves that. There were 80 inbound, outbound students, and now ShelterBox fundraisers. And I remember that last year they raised over $15,000. He posted that Youth Exchange is a great resource and encourages us all to tap into that. Thank you, Eric. Frank Spears here on another day trip. He took a 6-hour car round trip, and he said it was well worth his time. The Claxton Rotary Club welcomed him with open arms. They were receptive and warm. He said that there were great questions and interest in supporting our organization. He says his green box was sizzling that day. Thank you, Frank, for all the times you hop in that car and drive around the state to share ShelterBox. We appreciate it. We have Carol, who stepped out of the box, out of the Rotary box, that is, to display ShelterBox at the Jammin' for Jesus Festival in Cathedral City, California. Our ShelterBox has no bounds, and neither does Carol, so we're appreciative that she took the ShelterBox into the community and shared ShelterBox in a new and fun way. Here we have Dave Hall taking a service above selfie. He said he truly enjoyed presenting to, and I might butcher this, but the Chehalis Rotary Club, and they displayed such great enthusiasm, but so did Dave, because their president is signing up to become a ShelterBox ambassador. In fact, he is scheduled for a webinar in the coming weeks to be trained. So great job, Dave, and thank you for helping us add to our team. And we have Chris Alexander. We can't go through this presentation without thanking him for the time he spends he also finds unique ways to display ShelterBox. You'll find him at all sorts of community events and festivals, and we're so grateful that he introduces new audience to the ShelterBox mission and the work that we do around the world. Thank you, Chris. And our ambassador shout outs last before we get to our ambassador of the month. We have Jim Carrier. Jim Carrier, if you don't already know, does Jambalaya every year, and he cooked up another great Jambalaya fundraiser for the clubs in District 5150. And this event is hosted actually by a few Rotary clubs: the Rotary Club of Terra Linda, San Rafael Harbor, Rafael Evening, Marion Sunrise, Sausalito, and Mission San Rafael. And if you didn't keep track of all that list of Rotary clubs, in summary, he band together a lot of Rotary clubs in that district to help pull off an amazing event. We're thankful for his leadership and for his persistence in Jambalaya. So thank you, Jim. And without further ado, our ambassador of the month is Dave Hall, the pun man himself, because he continues to have unmatchable enthusiasm and energy for the ShelterBox mission. We just talked about how he shared ShelterBox with the Chehalis Rotary Club, and that beaming passion was so contagious that he was able to recruit that club president. And we love when Rotary leaders support ShelterBox. So thank you, Dave, for your always encouraging, ongoing, humorous, and the leadership that you bring to our team. We're so grateful to have you with us. And all right, friends, that leads us into the chunk of the call, and that's why I buzzed by those shout outs a little faster than usual. We are going to pets. So I'm going to hand over the presentation to Bill Tobin. He is going to go through the best and what is and the best ideas for pets. So Bill, go ahead and take it over.
Thank you, Cherie. Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing today? Good afternoon. It's finally sunny here in Northern California. Pets, well, we're going to pets. It looks like we've got just about every pet in the country covered, which is fantastic. And let's just go ahead and advance that to the next slide. There we go. So if you've never heard of pets before, yeah, we got them running around our house, that's for sure. But we're talking about president-elect training seminars. These are where the incoming Rotary presidents are going to learn all about how to run a club, what great things Rotary does, and of course, ShelterBox is one of those things. These events, these seminars are generally 2 to 3 days, and depending on how many districts are involved, they could have anywhere from 100 to over 500 attendees. These are catered towards the president-elects, but you'll also see just about everybody who's got a district governor title or has had one or will have one, or an assistant governor. All the district leadership people generally go to pets, as do your Rotary Zone and Rotary Global leaders. Go ahead, Cherie. Thank you. So the first thing I want to kind of talk about here is that we have a wonderful partnership with Rotary. 2 things on this particular slide, though. Number one, you do not want to use this joint logo that you see here. That is for use only at the international level between Rotary and ShelterBox UK. So I know it looks slick, and we all like to use the slick-looking logos, but we cannot use this one. So you want to separate anything you have that you're presenting at a Pets or anywhere else, and use 2 individual logos instead of the combined logo. Also, on top of that, you'll notice in our fine print underneath, which basically says we're independent of Rotary and the Rotary Foundation, and that's actually a really good point to make, is that we aren't part of the foundation, as people will often mistake us as a foundation project and will think they're supporting us when in reality they're giving money to the Rotary Foundation. Nothing against Rotary Foundation. I love it. I'm a major donor myself, but it's important that we distinguish ourselves as being independent of the foundation. Go ahead, Sheree. So what makes us such good partners with Rotary International? Well, let's take a look at a few things that are highlighted in the strategic plan by Rotary. 1, advance their recognition and public image. Number 2, grow membership in both numbers and the quality of member. And number 3, there is increase their capacity to provide service. Now, Rotary and ShelterBox are really a natural alignment. Go ahead, Sheree. If we take a look here at those 3 things, well, you know, ShelterBox, we show a strong recognition of Rotary. It's not only is it all over our gear, but we began as a Rotary Clubs project, so we have always maintained a lot of the same values as Rotary, as far as being honest and transparent and reaching the most vulnerable in a community. Those same types of things that Rotary does, and it's a great public image partnership, having both logos present in disaster relief. Expanding membership globally. Well, I know for a fact I've met several of you who learned about ShelterBox first and then became new members of Rotary second, as you learn more about Rotary. That is right in alignment with Rotary's strategic plan of growing membership. And finally, increasing Rotary's capacity to provide service. Obviously, we are a project partner. We go on disaster relief responses all over the globe, and each time we're doing that, we're expanding Rotary's capacity to provide service. So we align very well with the strategic plan, but it gets quite a bit deeper than that. If we want to go to the next slide. Cherie, thank you. The Rotary Foundation. Now, Rotary Clubs and the Rotary Foundation categorize their impact in these 6 areas of focus. And this is outward facing. This is what Rotary can do for the world. And so, as you can see here, we have supporting education, providing clean water, promoting peace, saving mothers and children, growing local economies, and fighting disease. Those, anytime you're going to do something through Rotary, you can pretty much categorize that service project in these areas. Next slide, please. So yeah, it's a busy slide, and that's intentional, but we fit Rotary's areas of focus. A warm blanket will help a child stay warm, or a infant and mother stay warm. Our tents and our shelter kits help provide shelter for those at-risk mothers and children. They've been used to create schoolhouses for education and literacy. Economic and community development, you might think that's a stretch, but it really isn't. We've got documented cases where a home-based business like a seamstress can open for business because now she has a ShelterBox tent to work out of. We have cases where people have taken the shovel and other tools in the toolkit and been able to actually get work and provide income since they've received that aid. Disease prevention treatment. I mean, this is a pretty busy slide, but as you can see, all of our gear will fit into the area of focus at least in one spot, if not several spots. So Rotary's dedicated those 6 areas of focus, and believe it or not, through our efforts, so is ShelterBox. Go ahead, next slide, please. Now, when Rotary clubs look inward, and they learn a lot of this at PETS, they learn a lot about the avenues of service and how to make a club a vibrant, active club. So the avenues of service are things that the club looks at internally to make sure they have service available in these various directions. Next slide, please. So as you can see, we align really well with the avenues of service. A thriving club is anchored by strong relationships. We've got people on the line right now from all over the United States. Some of them are even out of the United States. I've built so many good relationships as an ambassador with other clubs. A lot of times those conversations go beyond ShelterBox into what our clubs are doing in other areas of service, like vocational or community or international. And those conversations, oftentimes I'll bring stuff back to my club that I've heard from one of you in a conversation, or read about on our ShelterBox Facebook group. So having a ShelterBox ambassador within a club is a good membership tool. It strengthens your club, and you're not going to lose that member. People get involved in ShelterBox, and it solidifies their membership in Rotary. Vocational service, that's working with integrity and contributing your expertise to the society at large. Making sure that you have people within your club able to do that is part of vocational service, and where ShelterBox and Rotary work together there. Obviously, 90% of our natural disaster responses involve Rotarians on both sides, the beneficiary side and on the fundraising side. Most of our staff and many, if not most of our volunteers are already Rotarians, and we utilize that expertise all around the globe to help us serve the families, the most vulnerable families, even better. So we're very much entrenched in vocational service. Community service is what Rotary clubs have to improve their communities. I mean, right where they live. And you may think, well, how can ShelterBox fit in there? Well, every time we're talking to clubs and we're telling them about what we do, we're reinforcing the need for families to be better prepared within their community. So oftentimes, I'll talk to a club and I'll ask how many people have a disaster preparedness kit in their homes. Well, I probably wouldn't have asked that question if I was talking about, planting trees or supporting a children's activity of some kind that the club does. But since I'm talking about ShelterBox, it becomes pertinent, and it becomes a community thought process, and something that clubs could look at to improve their community. And so we align very well with community service. Next slide, please. International service, I mean, that's a no-brainer. We're an ongoing international project. We're always seeking peaceful solutions, and I think there's no better proof in the pudding, and then getting a Nobel Peace Prize nomination now for the second year in a row. I mean, that's basically saying you're an international organization, and we provide international service. So that's a no-brainer. And youth services, Shirley was mentioning earlier with Eric and doing the RYE activities. Youth is the future. It really is. And the more youth that know about us, the brighter future that we have to reach more families as time goes on. But what ShelterBox brings, ShelterBox to a school or Interact Club or Rotaract Club really does is not only teaches them about ShelterBox, but it teaches global awareness. And because we go about things in a Rotarian manner, humanities and ethics and empathy, service, peace, it's an ideal project for your Interact clubs or Rotaract clubs. So these are ways we align with Rotary, and when these president-elects are getting trained on these same subjects, we now have a way of partnering each one of those subjects with avenues of service, areas of focus. We can match up really well with any of that. Next slide, please. So what are our objectives at PETS? Well, first and foremost, promoting ShelterBox, certainly. Second, let's inspire some Rotary Club presidents and Rotary leaders to support us. We want to schedule our presentations. You might not be able to secure a specific date, but getting the information out and finding the right contacts, recruiting volunteers, obviously always a big advantage at PETS, because you get presidents looking for things for their clubs to do, for their people to do, and we're a very viable option for that. And then promoting our ShelterBox Club Hero program, District Challenge, which I'll get on more on in a minute, and our Action Toolkit, which I'll also explain a little bit more here in a minute. Go ahead, Sheree. So basically, promoting ShelterBox is to have your gear up and ready, have your solar lights charged. Those are the little things that make a big difference. I always hate it when I go to start a solar light and it doesn't work. You know, it's not the best foot to start out on. So make sure lights are charged. Have a vertical banner if one's in your possession. Use the ShelterBox tablecloths. Have plenty of brochures. The volunteer poster that I think Sheree already sent out, and it's available on a portal, I'm sure. Have plenty of business cards. Have some ShelterBox swag to give to the Rotary clubs, and if at all possible, find a great location. You need to be adaptable. You need to be ready to roam around. You can't be afraid to engage with people, but please, no stalking. Let's not follow people all over the building to try to get a pamphlet in their hands. That just doesn't look cool that way. If people are busy, a Rotary International president might walk by and think, oh, I gotta get a brochure in their hand. Well, if they're a Rotary International president or incoming president or someone real high up in Rotary, they probably already know about ShelterBox. Take the opportunity to say hi if you can, but please don't chase them around. Next slide, please. Excuse me. Another objective big is getting people inspired about us, and there's really no better way of doing that than having a beneficiary story ready. This is Lydia. You can meet her on several areas in the ShelterBox website and hear her story, but have a story ready. You might not have the graphic like you have here, but know a story to share. It's a great icebreaker. Someone says, "Oh, tell me about ShelterBox." Well, let me tell you about Lydia. You know, she's typical of most refugees and so forth and so on, until you get to how ShelterBox has really made a difference in her life. And those are good icebreakers. Have something ready to say. Next slide, please. Scheduling presentations, more like just plant the seed. Get the program chair contact information if you can. Get the club president's contact information, like a business card. If the president says, "Oh, I'll have to check with my program chair," which they will say a lot, give them 2 cards, one for them, one for the program chair. That's the key to getting into Rotary clubs is making sure they know how to get hold of you, making sure you know how to get hold of them. And then don't just sit on those business cards for a year that you get at a Pets. Call them or send them a thank you note right out the gate, even email. Thanks for stopping by our display. Would love to have a program at your club. Let's get involved together. Let's partner on finding vulnerable families. Whatever you want to say it, but get it to them. Next, please. Now I'm going to throw it back to Cherie for a moment, because she is certainly by far the expert on ShelterBox volunteer opportunities. So take it away, Cherie.
Absolutely, Bill. Thank you. I appreciate your patience while I click through that. We've had a lot of tips and questions come in already, so we're ready to address that when the discussion comes. But let's talk about recruiting ShelterBox volunteers. You know, last year at Pets, you had the ambassador conversation, you had the Rotary Club conversation, our Rotary Club champion liaison conversation, but we've opened that spectrum up because we understand that not everybody feels comfortable in a public speaking role, or maybe not everybody has the capacity to take on the time commitment like an ambassador. So we've created 2 new volunteer positions. You can see here we have the advocate and we have the change maker. So the advocate is somebody who's probably savvy on social media. They probably have a Twitter, an Instagram, a Facebook, just like we do, LinkedIn, and we're hoping they want to share our message. So they sign up to become an advocate. We ask them to like and follow our social media platforms and then share our message. In the time of disaster, we ask that they activate. So they are keeping their network on top of where we stand with the response to that disaster and how their network can help. They've got a reach that we don't have on our own. So by being an advocate, our message is getting out a little bit further. Now, a change maker is somebody who maybe they love planning events. They like fundraisers. They're probably the perfect Shine coordinator. They're the next Jambalaya coordinator, but they don't like speeches. They don't maybe have time for a year-round commitment to getting out and sharing the message, but they want to raise money for ShelterBox. Maybe they're going to do it on Facebook. It's whatever it looks like to them. Maybe they'll paddle the Mississippi. I think we know somebody that did that. So the Changemaker is a fundraiser, and at the time of disaster, they are going to activate. They're going to share the news of what's going on with ShelterBox in that disaster, and they're going to let their network know how to help and maybe create a special fundraiser around that time. You'll see that the club champion, that was once the Rotary Club liaison. We have changed that name to more coincide with the language that ShelterBox Canada uses to help get rid of some confusion there, but the ambassador stays the same. And when you go to our volunteer page now, we also show a separate little button for the office and intern where it lets you know that's just for California or Florida. And we have the response team. That page, now when you click apply, it does take them directly to the UK page. So we're hoping to clarify, expand our options, and extend our reach. Bill, I'm going to knock it back over to you.
All right, thanks, Cherie. That's good information. Okay, another objective at Pets is promoting various ways that we could create incentives for clubs to give. Clubs will give based just on the need and our stories, but also sometimes they like a little, what's in it for them kind of thing. So the Hero program, that's nothing new. What we are going to start doing is maybe also looking at giving it retroactively, so that the pledge doesn't have to come in first. I know some clubs have a hard time with the pledge because they don't want to, they think they're committing money in the future and they don't want to do that, so they may back off from Hero. I think it's just important to let them know that they could be heroes just by a sustainable contribution of $1,000, $3,000, or $5,000. We'll put them in Hero Club. District Challenge, that's brand new this year. We're going to roll that out to the district governors and district governor-elects and the clubs on Rotary Day, the 23rd of this month, which is Rotary's, I think I've lost count, 117 years or something like that. I have to look that up. Started in 1905, so what, 114 years. That is asking every club in the district to do something. There's no minimum donation like there is in a Hero Club. It does include advocacy. If they just want to shout out about us or share all the stuff we put on Facebook onto their club Facebook page, we're just asking for every club to do something. There's 7,000 clubs, give or take a couple dozen, in the United States. If every one of those clubs could just do $500, we would have more funding from Rotary clubs than we've ever had before. So it really depends on just getting clubs to do something. That's the district challenge. We may do some super challenge stuff in later years where, a certain number of hero clubs or whatever. But for right now, for 2019, 2020, the district challenge is to do something, 100% district club support. The action toolkit, that will be shared soon. Also, I believe our deadline on that's the 23rd. We want to roll that out. That's a new section of our website. That will be your one-stop shop for online resources for clubs, for ShelterBox info, partnership info, fundraising ideas, drag and drop stuff you can put right into your district newsletters or even club newsletters or supporter newsletters, requests for speakers. Basically, that's going to be, if you already know about us and you just want to participate in some way, shape, or form, that's the site you're going to want to hit right there. So those are both new, District Challenge, Action Toolkit. That information will be coming out to the ambassadors any moment now, any day now, and then it'll officially launch. Many of you probably already know about them, and then it'll launch officially on the 23rd. So there's just an idea what the toolkit page looks like. I don't know, Cherie, if you're scrolling down that or if that's just...
No, I took a screenshot, but I wanted to give you guys a visual. When you go here, this is kind of your landing page, and then what the screenshot's not capturing are the action buttons that offer you the different buckets of information that Bill described. So we're really trying to kind of parallel and mimic the Rotary website where you go and you have these different areas to take you to how you can get involved. We're doing the same thing for ShelterBox with a Rotary perspective.
Yeah, well put. Okay, go ahead, next slide. So talking points. I know in the playbook we sent out to everybody, the talking points were numerous. So I think it's important just to keep some basic strategy in your head, or else it could be overwhelming. Just think of something historical, statistical, relatable, and visionary. And if you could just have one from each of those, you'll have plenty of talking points for the person who walks up next. So like historical, well, there it is right in front of you. We're a Rotary project partner. We started in the year 2000. We've been nominated for a Peace Prize. Statistical, people love statistics, so have some ready to go. 80 million people currently displaced, 300 disasters in over 100 countries, and I think we're actually saying now 1.5 million, but to be on the safe side, 1.4 million people served. And the most current information is always good to have. Know where we are currently, know what we did last year. Go ahead, Shruti. So relatable. Well, I think we've covered a lot of that. Areas of focus, avenues of service, strategic planning. We align well with all these things between ShelterBox and Rotary. It's why we make such good partners. And we're both obviously volunteer-driven organizations. Yeah, they got us by a few, 1.2 million to 1,000. But let's, if we do this right at PETS, maybe that 1,000 global volunteers will turn into 1,200 or 1,500. You never know what impact you have unless you're able to relate and talk to people. Visionary, that's kind of stuff like our vision plan and our goal. We want to be able to help 1 million people a year. We believe in a world where no family is left without shelter. These are visionary. It's not fact, it's where we want, what we want to see in the world. And we're going to work as hard as we can to make that vision come true, to make that vision fact. And when you use these talking points, your ask, which at PETS is a little bit different. You don't really ask for a check or anything like that, but you want to ask things like, will you commit to supporting ShelterBox? Can you advocate for ShelterBox? Make it in the form of a conversational ask, like, hey, let's help the most vulnerable families by committing your club to be a hero club. ShelterBox is the right international project for your youth programs. ShelterBox is the right international project for your club. Let's make this happen. Those are all calls to action, but it wasn't quite as direct as, hey, we really need some money. We hope your club could write us a check. Well, I mean, that's a pretty direct ask, and it certainly needs to be made sooner or later. But at these events, there's so much going through people's heads. that sometimes they're looking for a way to partner, or they're looking for a way to support, but they don't really have the ways or means right there to make a financial commitment. So the ask is a little bit different, but if you have pets, but if you have these talking points memorized or have your own, just something historical, statistical, relatable, and visionary, you should have no problem finding plenty of clubs that want to jump in and support us. Last slide, I think, after this. Yep. So taking good care of your pets, make sure they have plenty of water, let them out to go to the bath. Oh, wait, wrong pets. Taking good care of your pets at pets is be set up before it starts. It's kind of awkward looking when you come late to the game and people are, our tent takes a little bit of room to put up. So normally we're taking up some walking space and stuff. So be there in plenty of time. Keep your display area clean. If you have personal items, put them underneath the desks. Someone comes up and they're kind of looking around with an empty coffee cup. Always have a garbage can available. Sometimes I'll even throw one in the back of my truck so I can just have one with me. Just a little ones. Have a sign-up sheet available. Have something where people, if they don't have a business card, they can write down their name, their club, their email or phone number. Have lots of brochures. Provide those volunteer opportunities that we just talked about. Move around. People will walk past you and they may not have time to talk with you, but they may be walking past you and go standing in a long line waiting to get into a meal service. Well, walk that line. Hand out your business cards. Have some ShelterBox brochure or some swag with you. Ask this simple question: are you familiar with ShelterBox? If they say yes, you've got something to talk about. If they say no, you've got something to talk about. Basically, I'm saying you'll have something to talk about. Have those talking points at the ready. Have a story in your head. If you see anyone, they normally have a different colored badge than anybody else. They'll be the people that are around when we first show up. Usually, they'll be more prominent because there won't be as many people around. Those are the pets organizing committee members. Thank them every chance you get. A little bit of thanks goes a long ways. And also ask already at this year pet about next year pets. And have a good time no matter what. Sometimes you go to these and people just seem to pass you by and you chase them down or you walk a line and everyone just seems to be too preoccupied for you. Don't let that get you down. They are preoccupied. Pets is a big deal. Running a Rotary Club might seem simple until you've actually done it. It's a very rewarding, a very fun thing to do, but it is a lot of work, and they take this training very serious. And we're just a sideshow to that training in many ways. We're just, we're lumped in with vendors and other organizations, things that want these clubs to participate. They're going to want to look at them all. I guess all I can say is have a smile on your face, be welcoming, talk about ShelterBox, and the ShelterBox almost sells itself because it is such a cool thing. If you get a couple points across, you'll get people involved. And that's it. Have a good time at Pets, folks, everybody. I'll be at mine.
Thank you, Bill.
There I am making a
appreciate
connection.
that overview. And we did have some tips and some questions come in, so I have built in time to kind of address those. First, a few of you are in areas that are also disaster aid areas, and I think some of those areas have maybe feel more, not so much competition, but it feels like there might be some bad blood in some areas. Other areas you've started to work more cohesively, or you can set up at Pets together and it not be a big deal. But one of our ambassadors lives in an area where it's increasingly abrasive. They're receiving these comments from disaster aid and wants to know, how can we address this? And for me and Bill, I'll give you an opportunity to answer too, but I have worked alongside a disaster aid at Zone Institute. And when people came up and they wanted to know, one, what is the difference, or if they had any comments about the two, I just said, there's enough room in the world of disaster relief for both of us, and we're just all grateful that we can provide effort and to serve those displaced alongside one another. We do different things, and I'll say, here's what ShelterBox work is, here's where we are currently working, and then I let them go and have the conversation with disaster aid. I don't ever try to combat the abrasive comments, or I don't ever speak to, if they're speaking negatively, I try to dismiss it and say, well, I know this was our mission. There are displaced people out there. We have to try and serve them. And Bill, I don't know, have you run into that at all?
Yeah, I have. We had disaster aid at one of our pets a few years ago. Now, I'm in the far west pets area, and it's one of the largest in the country. I believe it's 9 districts. So it's just crazy. There's 600 plus people. I think there's 550 clubs. So you have 100 plus people on top of that. So you're absolutely right. There's no point in trying to do a side-by-side comparison. There's no point in trying to formulate a strategy that we're better than they are in some way, shape, or form. I believe we're better than them in all ways, but I would never, in a forum like a PETS, say that to anybody. What I would say is that, yeah, there's 80 million people in the world displaced right now, and by 2025, we want to reach 1 million of those. So if those numbers don't change in the world, there's room for 80 ShelterBox-like organizations out there, and then maybe with that many, we'll be able to solve the shelter crisis in the world. Kind of lay it out that way, that the need is out there so great. There's room for dozens of disaster relief, shelter-oriented organizations. That being said, we've got a great track record. The Nobel Peace nominations, I think, validate our efforts more than just about anything else there has been to date. And yeah, I don't get into a one-up contest with anybody else. If you've ever been and looked at all the different organizations that are out there doing disaster relief, we're all doing a good job. I think that ShelterBox is probably has the farthest reach at any given time between the two. But again, I wouldn't express that as, oh, we have a farther reach than they do. You would just express it as the reach we do have. That we've been able to reach 300 disasters in under 20 years and helped almost 1.5 million people, 100 plus different countries. I mean, those speak for themselves.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Appreciate you adding to the insight. And for those that have asked, or those that are wondering, yes, we are going to make this PowerPoint available. The call recording and PowerPoint should be up on the Ambassador portal by end of day tomorrow. The call recording link will be sent out with our February newsletter with a reminder to let them know how to find the call recording and slideshow deck on the portal, and then the notification will be added to Facebook as well. We got a lot of good ideas for pets from Dave Nichols, so I want to take a moment just to kind of go through those as bullet points. Dave recommends be visible, and I think Bill covered that, but be visible, make sure the logo is out there and you're getting good placement. He also says it's a great way to get new ambassadors integrated. That's true. If you're a new ambassador, try to connect with other ambassadors in your area, see if you can have a presence there with them at PETS. It's a great way to be introduced to the Rotary system. If you've never been to PETS, great way to shake some hands with some Rotary presidents and make ambassador friends as well. Additionally, we have set up a tent and do a happy hour. I know that comes up a lot, and we've talked about be by the bar. So it's not for us to necessarily drink. It's for when our presidents and the participants are going by, it's downtime, and they're having a drink. It's a great way to strike up casual conversation with them.
If I could add on that just for a second, Cherie, you do need to make sure, hosting the tent and inviting people who are buying drinks on premises in the tent's one thing. Even giving away, like bringing wine, ShelterBox wine or something, giving away, you need to clear that with the hotel staff. Make sure it's okay to do that. And you also need to make sure you're complying with any liquor laws. I know in California, beer, you can't even just give beer and liquor away in some instances without a liquor license. So just make sure you're doing that. If you're going to do a happy hour, just make sure you're complying with any rules.
Okay, good tips, good tips. Another idea from the Pacific Northwest is to make an appearance at the district room happy hours. So just show up, I guess. Dave and Eric said that we totally do that. So go where you can, but don't stalk, as we heard. Don't be creepy.
Yeah, and actually the hospitality suites are fair game. I mean, if someone invites you to check out the hospitality suite, by all means, go do it, because that's where they all hang out after hours.
Okay, great. We had a recommendation to do a daily drawing with business cards. Great way to capture information to bring back so that they can be looped into what's going on with ShelterBox. And we'll make sure if there's any other tips. I think that's all from Dave. We're getting questions about the Nobel Peace Prize, and yes, ShelterBox was nominated again in 2019 for the Nobel Peace Prize. We are working within the staff team to decide a strategy for a communication plan. You all know we can't self-promote. You know, and you can kind of mention that in passing casual conversation. I don't think you're going to see us posting about it unless we get that green light. I know last year we knew that we were nominated. We kind of treaded water as to how we were going to communicate that. We eventually sent out the notification through the ambassador newsletter, and then eventually it got looser and looser as we went along. Well, right now we're still in that tight space of wanting to make sure we're respectful of this nomination and that we're not self-promoting, because the nominees don't ever get notified unless the nominator tells them. So we're wanting to be respectful in this time. As we learn more and we're ready to put it out there a little bit further, we'll make sure that we send that communication out. But for now, you do know, and it's something I think you can bring up casually. Bill, I don't know if you have any other advice on that.
No, that's a good point. It's something we're not supposed to self-promote, like we would put out on our web page. But it has been told to us, so I would use it as a conversation piece only. I wouldn't put it in a slide or have a big poster made. Last year's pretty obvious. They don't ever publish the nominees, so anyone could probably say they've been nominated. There's no way you can really prove otherwise. So there's a little bit of that as well. But yeah, I think it's a big deal. And that if someone's talking to you and you're trying to stress how well we do in the world in regards to, especially in regards to peace and conflict resolution through our work, then it's certainly something worth saying to somebody.
Thank you, Bill. And I'm not seeing any other. I'm just going to scroll really quick, make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, we have a tip from Peggy. Send an email to the president-elects inviting them to the reception if you're having one, or to stop by the booth. That's great. Let them know ahead of time. Holly says if you're worried about the liquor laws, just provide the snacks. Give them the food to take with their happy hour.
Yeah, a good idea there. Just again, make sure the hotel's approving it. You don't want to get the whole pets in trouble because we were the guys giving out food, or we were the people doing whatever we shouldn't have been.
All right, and then we have somebody saying an opportunity to give ShelterBox swag to the first number of clubs that sign up for a presentation. So a way to get your foot in the door with different clubs. And Mary Sloan says that sometimes in the past we've made a presentation to the partners at PETS. All right, well, I know we're starting to come up to the top of the hour, and I want to make sure I have time for some staff reminders. If there was any further tips, suggestions, or questions from today's call, you can email them directly to me at shelterboxusa.org so that I can answer them all at once. I'd be happy to do that. But for right now, with the time we have left, I want to let you know, if you haven't already seen, we have a one-stop shop for Rotary tools, pets, and district conferences. District conferences are coming up. They're right around the corner. In this one-stop shop, you're going to find a letter template that allows you to give your district governor a heads up. You want to be at district conference. Here are some ways that you can add ShelterBox engagement to district conference. Go check it out if you haven't already. And then also here in this one-stop shop, if you can't set up by the bar, if things just aren't seeming to go this perfect ideal plan that we've just said, here's the best way to make an impact at pets. Maybe the least that can be done is working with the coordinators and with the MCs to play a 3-minute ShelterBox promotion video. There are 4 video options here in the one-stop shop that can be played at different downtimes or transition periods during pets and district conferences, so make sure to check that out. This is on the portal as well as through our Facebook. If you're on Facebook, you can go to our welcome album and click through. There's a Google Drive where those resources are available as well. I have to take another opportunity to plug SAFE, ShelterBox Ambassador Field Experience. If you haven't already registered and you still have time to do so, this year it is Friday, April 5th through Sunday, April 7th. We want you to be in Austin, Texas, arriving on the airplane, arriving in Austin, probably really no later than 1. We're going to get your travel coordinated. You'll arrive in the ranch by 4, and then trying to get out and fly out by 3:30 on Sunday. In case you didn't already know those details, wanted to share. Would love to meet all of you in person and share this experience with you. It really is life-changing. And also, we need your help. Bill, especially, you might have seen him post this Survey Monkey, but we are wanting your help to help us fill in the gaps of information we may not have. We are seeking the district governor-elect, nominee, and nominee designate for these years so that we can begin to build relationships with them, Bill especially. So if you haven't already, if you can take a moment to fill that out, that would be great. We're also going to send this link out with our monthly newsletter. And another plug for the district challenge. So if you're putting us in touch with your district governors, make sure that if you're ever getting a chance to rub elbows with them and talk to them about your ShelterBox work, let them know about the Rotary District Challenge. We are wanting districts, as many districts as possible, to participate and find a way for all clubs in the district to engage in some way. And in case you haven't already seen, we are going to be holding our 2nd annual 2019 ShelterBox Oscars, and we would like you to join us because this is all about you, thanking you, honoring you, and the hard work that you do year-round. So this is taking place Monday, February 25th, the day after the actual Oscars. I want to make sure I have that day right. Yep, Monday the 25th, and it's an evening call, but please join us while we celebrate you and your accomplishments. Really quickly, we have a new deployment map updated. It's on the portal. It's been shared on Facebook, but this is our February current deployments. Go to shelterboxusa.org/news for details about our work in those areas, or catch us live on Tuesdays for the live update about our work around the world. And with that, we are finishing exactly at the top of the hour. So I want to give you your day back, and thank you for joining us. Bill, do you have anything to add before we close out?
Nope. Have a great week, everybody.
All right. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you for all that you do. I look forward to honoring you at the Oscars. Reach out to me by email, by Facebook, and I'll make sure to get your questions answered. Recording and PowerPoint will be on the portal tomorrow. Take care, everyone.